I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show we have Yanislav Malahov, founder of Aeternity Blockchain. Yanny, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Ashton. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and excited to hear your questions.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. I'm excited to dive into Aeternity. I know you have a lot of experience in the blockchain industry, and I would love to start off our conversation by just hearing a little bit about your personal background, what drives you in the space, and how sort of that led to leading Aeternity and solving some of these solutions in the blockchain industry.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, what drove me into the space? Originally, before blockchain, before crypto, I studied computer science. I studied economics as a minor as well. I went into the startup scene. I thought I'm gonna launch a, let's say, like a Web 2.0 mobile application, something like this. I failed. Discovered Bitcoin. I thought, after reading a Bitcoin white paper, I thought, hey, there's something to it. I went to a Bitcoin meetup, and there was a really interesting crowd. So, how I found about Bitcoin was actually through my experience with the computer science. I Googled for cryptocurrency, just plain cryptocurrency, because I knew that we're going to need crypto and currency together to create new currencies on the internet, for the internet. This was really logical for me. And I decided, I bought my first Bitcoin, and sometime later, like a year later, I decided to become a blockchain or Bitcoin professional, in the sense that I spent all my time to first soak up all the information which was back then available, and then start working on several different projects. For example, the Dark Wallet project, or for example, also the Ethereum project, where I was very early involved. I had also worked with Vitalik before Ethereum on another wallet, which was Cultcoin wallet project, which was implementing maybe one of the first solutions for digital artists to issue, as well as timestamp, digital artwork as tokens, as Satoshis. Back then we implemented it. We would say today NFTs, on the Bitcoin blockchain. We did with Trent McGonaghy, who afterwards started the Ocean Protocol and BigChain.B, and this was before Ocean Protocol, BigChain.B. I wrote about this. This is the godfather of Ethereum post, and I don't know, I was not so happy with some things within Ethereum, also especially the technology, and I decided, after seeing that also the market understands the potential of smart contract platforms, I decided to create a technologically more advanced version written in Erlang. Yeah, there we are now going to Eternity. So I like to create things, to start things, like to innovate, and in the space, and that's what I'm doing.
Love it, Yanny. And I feel like there's a huge gap between first learning about Bitcoin, buying your first Bitcoin, to all of a sudden starting a scalable blockchain and creating a protocol. And I'm sure you learned a lot in the Ethereum days, and then you sort of have that entrepreneur's journey where you see some of the inefficiencies and the things that could be better in the process, and all of a sudden you're like, well, I guess I need to build it myself.
Yeah, I also learned a lot from Bitcoin, and especially differences between Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm somehow also like a Bitcoin maximalist. I believe that Bitcoin needs to succeed so that all the other cryptocurrencies succeed. And there's only one Bitcoin, which is the one with the largest amount of proof of work through all the blocks, meaning the sum of it. And this is, all the projects which are kind of like doubling or trying to double Bitcoin, they are not Bitcoin. This is like the most important value proposition. There's like 21 million coins, and that you're following the chain with the most proof of work. And we see this very similar with Eternity, in the sense that there's proof of work with the mainnet, and we are maybe one of the very few proof of work smart contract platforms as well. Although we also innovated quite a lot on the proof of work mechanism itself, and there with Hyperchains, also proof of stake blockchains, you can launch. I could go more into the details, like the technological differences between Ethereum and Eternity, but
I would love to sort of start high level there, and as you said, you learn a lot when you sort of learn the differences between Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I would love to know more about Aeternity and those inefficiencies that you found and sort of what exactly makes it different, unique, and valuable.
Yeah, so for example, state channels. State channels are part of the protocol. They're part of the smart contract language. It's really built in to launch private smart contracts within those state channels, which can, like the users of those smart contracts can then exchange transactions with the speed of light without paying transaction fees. It's quite cool technology in the sense that it's still possible to enforce it by the chain, so as if everything was on chain from the beginning. But by default, every state upgrade gets signed by both parties, like a legal contract as well. If you amend a legal contract, or have some sort of delivery of something, you get like a receipt. It's kind of like an attachment to the contract as a proof that things get done. You do this in a very similar way off chain, still being able to get the blockchain court rolling essentially through publishing the last signed state and the smart contract in case of disagreement, or very often just the counterparty disappears. So this is one thing which really differentiated Eternity from most of the other blockchains, but also that there's a naming system or oracles built in. So generally Eternity abstracts on a higher level. So when you program a smart contract on Eternity, you abstract on a higher level than writing a smart contract. In Solidity, you also use a different programming language. It's a functional programming language, which is made for writing faster, safer code, because you don't have side effects. Functional programming style essentially forces you to call it functional style, so that you have return values which you work instead of changing code or state through side effects. So you can apply methods of formal verification, formal proofs much easier, and this for this, for example, we worked with we're still working with a team of specialists in exactly these systems for proving through maths that software does what it is supposed to be doing. And with the imperative style of Solidity, this is, it's also somehow possible, but way more difficult because, developers can more easily write spaghetti code, or just to do like a quick fix. They're just circumventing something, and then bugs appear. And if we're talking about trillions worth of assets on blockchains, we want to make really sure that the software is really doing what we're doing, and want to apply different methods to check it. And the blockchain itself is also written in a smart contract language. It's written in Erlang, in a functional language. It's written in Erlang, a functional language made for distributed systems, writing distributed systems coming out of the telecommunication industry in Sweden at Ericsson. And it's used by Cisco, YY, as well as Ericsson for running the internet switches and telephone switches. So there is, every time you're doing something on the internet, there is probably Erlang running in the background somewhere with very high probability. And this makes Eternity really integratable on a very low level of the internet, And imagine to have full nodes running there, how fast Eternity would be, and if like all the telcos would just be able to install our this on their, let's say, maybe base stations or switches, this would maybe be the most decentralized network. It's not there yet, but it's possible because it's written in Erlang. Yeah, other things. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, no, I think that's quite a bit to digest, and it sounds like the base layer. There's a lot that goes into it to make a secure, scalable, high-performing blockchain. What I'm curious about is laying all that foundation to bring the application layer and the usability of the smart contracts and decentralized applications on the network. With all of what your team has done so far, is it able to compete, Aeternity with these layer one protocols that have all of the major kind of dApps that we see right now with DeFi dApps, NFTs, other financial use cases? Is it able to do all that stuff, or what are some of the main use cases of Aeternity?
Yeah, I mean, I see mostly like experiments happening in the space, or yes, there are, let's say, early prototypes, but there's no mainstream adoption yet. And I believe that if we have like one killer app which achieves mainstream adoption on Eternity blockchain, of course, Eternity blockchain has a big chance. And I mean, I'm involved in different projects and also like kind of like an investor or contributor, depends. And it's interesting what's happening. I mean, there's lots of hype in the space. So I'm picking more let's say the technological interesting projects which are maybe also more like under the radar, but in case there's a breakthrough, or there's the product needs to make a click at some point, and then the users just need to grow naturally or organically. And I don't think any project has such or has this click moment yet. Or would you disagree? I'm curious about your opinion as well.
Yeah, no, we're very early. There's a lot of adoption to go, but then there's so many moving pieces to these protocols like Aeternity. But from my discussions throughout the past years over a blockchain adoption, mainstream adoption, of trying to get even just the tech savvy users trying to get adoption from these applications, it seems that the user experience and usability, first of all, from the developers to make it easy to develop on the platform, but then having once the applications are made, the usability of those applications for people that those people that were like you in the beginning, where they just bought Bitcoin and they're just getting into it. How can they easily get from step 1 to step 3 of using dApps on Eternity when you just got into the space and you don't have to become a developer and learn all this code and go through all the intricate processes? It's very tough for all of these protocols. I'm curious what your stance is on building a platform for, is Eternity more focused on, in the long run, having end user facing dApps that are easy to use? But there's also other protocols that are, connecting and providing value for all these other blockchains, and a lot of it's on the back end, and you don't really need to understand. You just know that it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't speak for Eternity, I speak for myself, and maybe as a representative of my company, but Eternity is fundamentally also like a DAO in the sense that it's decentralized and people with tokens can vote, and soon there's also like a new upgrade with Hyperchains, which will enable also people to launch their own Eternity style proof of stake chains, which were also DAOs. But to go back to your question, I mean, answering from my personal opinion, I think I mean the ecosystem the Eternity ecosystem needs to grow for this. More capital, or generally capital, is a required thing. Token sales is something which is a proven mechanism in the decentralized world to bring in more capital. And I would like to see more token sale projects on Eternity blockchain, and I would be happy to support them myself and also with my team. I'm not speaking here as the like a Eternity Crypto Foundation, but yeah, I don't know. It's like several attempts to start myself some sort of token sale factory. Maybe it's going to succeed at some point. I learned from my experience that you should just like one of the most important things for success is just to continue and
that's a great point. And from what we've seen on Ethereum, it's become very easy to create a token or create a project or do a launch, and with ChatGPT, I see people being able to create tokens in 27 seconds now or something like that. Obviously, you want to value quality over quantity, but having that ease of use and the ecosystem, right? If it's like starting a company when you live across the street from Y Combinator, you have that support, financial support, other parts of the ecosystem to help support. You think that will be possible in the long run on the Aeternity platform to be able to easily launch a project and receive support from the communities?
Yeah, I think so. Like for a mainstream project, I don't think that let's say it matters so much. I mean, it depends on the use case, but for many of them, it doesn't matter which blockchain, but economically, they would maybe pick the cheaper one. Here's also like lots of space on Eternity blockchain. I mean, there are lots of different reasons why you should pick another blockchain, especially in hype times when the transaction fees are rising. People are really looking for more scalable alternatives, and Eternity is really built for scalability with state channels, as I explained, and also Hyperchains, with essentially being able to launch more chains on demand, or I think people or teams, especially, or the tooling for creating tokens should be improved, as well as the tooling for creating chains should be improved. Ideally, it's just one click. You don't even need to ask ChatGPT, although ChatGPT can even write Sophia smart contracts. I was also surprised that the AI learned how to write Sophia smart contracts, at least simple ones. But yes, the tools to create smart contracts, this is one of the most important things. I mean, many of, or let's say, I think we can almost like proudly say that most of the funding which we received through the token sale, which we did in 2017, went into development. And here, lots of the stuff was tooling as well to make blockchain and crypto more accessible. And
I'm curious on you mentioned about the hyperchains a few times and scalability. And at the beginning, you also spoke on the strength of proof of work consensus, and there's a debate back and forth between the Bitcoin maximalists and Ethereum moving over to proof of stake, and which is better, which is more scalable and secure. I'm curious how the Eternity protocol balances that, having the scalability with the hyperchains, but some people think that the proof of work consensus isn't as scalable as the proof of stake. So where does that balance fit, and what do you think is the best balance for scalability versus security?
I don't know. I think they're mixing something up, like the proof work mechanism. I think it's even more scalable than proof of stake, because the block headers are smaller, and let's say the proofs are also much easier. It's much more elegant and compact chain design, and also easier to prove, and even longest running. So there have been many problems with proof of stake, like you have seen, like with Solana, for example, or do the first proof of stake blockchain still exist? I don't think so. Does the first proof of work blockchain still exist? Yes, it does. So proof of work just speaks for itself and super useful, and it's almost like a primitive in cryptography and should be used in a smart way where it enhances security. And I believe if you add proof of work to any proof of stake chain in a smart way, you will have higher security for not so much higher price, I believe. And here with Hyperchains, we have like this hybrid approach that we are piggybacking on the proof of work of a parent chain. I believe Bitcoin is a great parent chain, but also Dogecoin for the beginning is amazing because of the much lower transaction fees. And we want to essentially use this parent chain, for example, Bitcoin or Dogecoin, as an entropy layer, timestamping layer, or entropy source and timestamping layer for kind of like an infinite amount of child chains or hyperchains, as we call them. And they can be even nested. And again, they're like reusing the proof of work in a very, very smart way without paying for it, just paying transaction fees to the parent, earning Hyperchain coins. So this is something which is hopefully launching later this summer. This is my personal view to these things, although I'm not getting a guarantee out of the developers like the ones I'm in contact with.
Yeah, and with the Hyperchains, being able to, I feel like the inefficiencies with Ethereum, one of them being when you create a project, you don't have as much flexibility, and if something were to happen to Ethereum, or like what's happened with Solana where it got shut down for whatever reason, your project's sort of stuck at a standstill. And from what I understand from some of the parachains on Polkadot, I'm not sure the differences between Hyperchain, parachain, is that it becomes a standalone blockchain that if the layer 0 original chain were to have an issue, your blockchain and your project is still sort of running and able to run and still function. Is that the case for the Hyperchains, or what are the other main advantages later on when a project moves into its own Hyperchain with Eternity?
Yeah, I mean, for the launch, it will be simple. So there will be one parent chain, but later on, it should be definitely possible that through a governance decision, through the token holders, they essentially decide from block 5,000,001, they're gonna switch to another parent chain, and they're gonna essentially then read or run the full nodes of this parent chain and read this parent chain as well, and write to it as well, because there's like a requirement. It's possible, it's adding more complexity, but it's quite easy to be implemented. Because I mean the parent and the child chain layers essentially are completely separate, and just a very few transactions need to be inserted into the parent chain. And the parent chain or the parent chain miners, they don't know anything about the hyperchains. For them, it looks just like a standard transaction with some random hash inside. So the hyperchains can operate fully stealth, and they don't need to fear that they're gonna be, threatened by the parent chain operator because they're causing, whatever amount of transactions or miners. Or this is also something very nice, which, for example, with merge mining, which is also a concept which some smart contract platforms are using, as well as Dogecoin is actually using, is not the case. So here you need to ask for the collaboration of the miners to be essentially merge mined. With Hyperchains piggybacking consensus, this is not the case. Anybody can just launch a Hyperchain. This is in the plan.
And the full release of the Hyperchains, that's not out yet, is it?
No. There's a testnet or a test version and some sort of graphical interface also for staking. But later this summer, I expect that there should be a full version. There is, I think, also a version which is already putting commitment transactions into a Bitcoiny chain. I say Bitcoiny because also Dogecoin is a Bitcoin chain because it's based on Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. And is that one of the main focuses that the DAO and the protocol is working on over the next part of the roadmap, or is there any other major milestones and sort of what's coming next for Eternity?
Yeah, I believe for the Eternity Crypto Foundation, Hyperchains is the most important thing, like on the kind of like core protocol level, or like a way how everybody can launch their own zero I mean, how shall I say? It's kind of 0-1, but it's also, I mean, you can say it's your own blockchain. It's like since layer 0 then for you, because it's independent from the parent chain, just piggybacking on the proof of work of the parent chain and using it as a timestamping layer. And sorry, I got your question was about.
Hyperchains, as you mentioned, they were the main focus, and I was curious if there was anything else on the roadmap.
Yeah, and for the superhero wallet, which I'm also involved in, superhero.com is a wallet for the Eternity ecosystem at the moment. I think the plan is to expand it to a multi-chain wallet supporting, of course, Hyperchains, but also Bitcoin and maybe even Ethereum and a few other technically quite cool projects. And here DeFi is also, I think, one of the focuses. So wallets should be, I mean, my vision, it's like a gateway to a DeFi world, and the dApps should interact really smoothly with the wallet. And so far, I think it's really complicated. It's a hassle. So this is DX is a thing to crack for mainstream adoption.
I think wallets will be a huge step for that adoption. Having a end user wallet that's able to interact with the protocols very easily and without having to learn how to code, I feel like that's a huge step. Yeah. Now I'm curious on how to learn more about the DAO for Aeternity and just the foundation and learning more about the protocol, or how can people get involved?
Yeah. So the foundation and DAO are two separate things. The Eternity Crypto Foundation is headquartered in Liechtenstein, and it's giving out grants to open source developers who are creating different software around or in the ecosystem, including also core development gets sponsored by this, but it's important that's like open source and Eternity related. And then with the DAO, I mean, like, there's a decentralized autonomous organization as people in being able to vote on governance or, let's say, decisions, and like they can have bring up issues and vote on them, where every coin represents one token, one vote. And they can be delegated as well, similar to proof of stake, but you don't earn a reward for voting, but it's in your interest and in everybody's interest to vote, because this like decides the future of the chain, and hard forks get decided by this. And also, for example, the block reward gets split into two. So the community decided through a governance vote, where we, or as a founding team or founding company, also didn't participate in the vote, that the mining reward is split, also going to the Eternity Crypto Foundation. But this could be changed anytime with essentially another vote. But currently this is the case. And like around 10% of the mining reward goes to the Eternity Crypto Foundation. This is also how, of course, in case Eternity is a success, it's eternally funded, the Eternity Crypto Foundation.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Thank you so much, Yanny, for all this information. I'll also leave the link to just the Aeternity website and the socials, and if there's any information about the DAO, I can leave that in the description box below for the viewers. Appreciate you coming on and giving great insight into the protocol and what's to come. I'm really looking forward to it, and let's definitely follow up in the near future.
Cool. And it's eternity.com and superhero.com, Eternity with a AE. It was nice. Thank you for this opportunity, and looking also forward to answer questions from the audience in case you have. And actually, I'm speaking right now from the Eternity Galaxy Week at the cryptocastle.org. And in the summer, we're going to have a big summer conference at the Crypto Castle as well, the Eternity Universe.
Awesome.
Check it out, reserve the date. And Ashton, you're also welcome to join us here at the Crypto Castle in Germany. Thank you very much.
Thank you.